The massive chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador James Walker stood up from his seat. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with a fire that made several alien representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. For 2 centuries, he began, his voice carrying across the chamber. Humanity has played by your rules. We accepted your restrictions. We smiled and nodded at your thinly veiled insults. We watched as you stripped our colonies of resources through unfair trade agreements that you called cultural exchange programs. The council chamber's air felt heavy. The blue speaker, head of the council, raised one of its appendages. Ambassador Walker, this is not the proper time. There will never be a proper time in your view. Walker cut in. Today's vote to restrict human expansion in the Orion Arm, while simultaneously allowing the mining guilds to strip our outer colonies, is the final move in your game. But you forgot something important. Walker pulled out a small device from his pocket. The alien guards tensed, but he simply pressed a button. The massive screens around the chamber lit up with data streams, hundreds of them. These are the trade reports from just one human colony, he said. Your mining guilds didn't just take resources. They stripped entire planets bare, left our people with nothing, all while you claimed it was fair exchange. The blue speaker's skin darkened, a sign of anger. These accusations are documented fact, Walker finished. But here's what you don't know. We've been watching, learning, growing stronger. While you thought you were slowly bleeding us dry, we were building something you couldn't see. Behind Walker, the entire human delegation rose as one. 200 men and women, representing every human colony and Earth itself, stood in silent unity. Humanity is leaving the Galactic Council, Walker announced. We withdraw from all treaties, effective immediately. Our borders are now closed to all Council traffic. Any vessels attempting unauthorized entry will be treated as hostile. The chamber erupted in chaos. Various alien species began shouting, some in anger, others in fear. They had never seen the humans act this way. For 2 centuries, humans had been diplomatic, almost submissive. This sudden steel in their spine was unexpected. You cannot do this. The blue speaker thundered. The treaties you broke first. Walker asked quietly, but his voice cut through the noise like a blade. The same treaties you manipulated to your advantage. Those treaties died the moment you decided to vote on stealing more of our worlds. He turned to the human delegation. We're done here. As they moved toward the exit, the trade minister of the Bright Empire, one of the council's most powerful members, called out, "Without the council's protection, you'll be defenseless. There are powers in this galaxy." Walker stopped at the door and turned. For the first time, he smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "That's where you're wrong," he said. "We never needed your protection. We played along because we believed in diplomacy, in working together, but you mistook patience for weakness. Now you'll learn what humanity is truly capable of." The delegation left, their footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. As the doors closed behind them, Walker sent a single message to Earth Command. Initiate Protocol Dawn. Across human space, hidden systems began powering up. Ships that had been carefully concealed emerged from their hiding places. Military bases that had been disguised as research stations revealed their true nature. In the council chamber, the alien representatives were still arguing when their communication systems suddenly went dark. Every human-made device, every trade link, every diplomatic channel simply shut down. As they scrambled to understand what was happening, a simple message appeared on their screens. Humanity gave peace a chance. You chose differently. Remember this moment. You caused what comes next. The message faded, leaving behind the image of a rising sun. And in that moment, the galaxy began to understand that they had never truly known their human neighbors at all. They had thought they were dealing with sheep, only to discover they had been playing chess with wolves. The diplomacy era was over. Now, humanity would show its true face. Admiral Thomas Gray stood on the bridge of the HFS Reckoning, watching as thousands of ships emerged from their hidden docks within the asteroid belts of Sol. The Ghost Fleet, humanity's best-kept secret, was finally revealing itself to the light of the stars. "Status report," he commanded, his voice steady despite the historic moment. "All ships reporting ready, Admiral," his second-in-command replied. "The cloaking systems are functioning at full capacity. The Council's sensors remain blind to our movements." For decades, humanity had been building this fleet in secret, while their official navy consisted of outdated ships that barely matched Council standards. The Ghost Fleet represented the true extent of human military technology. "Begin Operation Unveiling," Gray ordered. Across the solar system, massive structures began to emerge. Shipyards hidden inside hollow moons. Weapon platforms disguised as communication satellites. Research stations that had been shielded from alien detection for years. On Mars, the ground itself seemed to move as hidden hangar doors opened, revealing rows upon rows of advanced fighters. The Red Planet had never been the struggling colony humanity had claimed it to be. It was a fortress. "Sir," his communication officer called out, "we're receiving the first reports from Council space. They're detecting our energy signatures." Gray allowed himself a small smile. Let them see. It's time they understood what they've awakened. Across Council space, alien civilizations watched in growing horror as their sensors revealed the truth. The humans hadn't been struggling with basic spaceflight as they claimed. They hadn't been barely managing to maintain their colonies. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, research stations powered up their true systems. The primitive human scientists who had always asked for help with basic physics were now activating technology that the Council had thought impossible. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the Council's military fleets are mobilizing. They're trying to establish a containment pattern around human space." "Let them try," Gray responded. "Activate the quantum barriers." In an instant, every human world and colony vanished from alien sensors. The barrier technology, developed in secret and tested for years, now wrapped human territories in an impenetrable shield of altered spacetime. The Council's fleets found themselves firing at empty space, their weapons passing through areas where human worlds should have been. Their sensors couldn't penetrate the barriers, couldn't even understand how they worked. On Earth, the last pieces of the plan fell into place. Hidden factories beneath the oceans roared to life. The mountains themselves opened to reveal missile silos that had been there for decades, waiting for this moment. "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "the Council is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding we power down our systems and submit to their authority." Gray looked at the message on his screen and shook his head. "Send them our response." Across Council space, their message appeared. "You had your chance at peace. You chose war. Now face what you've created." The Ghost Fleet began to move. Ships that could outrun anything in Council space, weapons that could pierce any known shield, stealth systems that made them invisible to all but the most advanced sensors. "All ships, battle formations," Gray commanded. "Remember, we're not here to conquer. We're here to show them that humanity will no longer bow." The fleet split into precise formations, each group heading to its assigned sector. They would not attack first. That wasn't their way. But if the Council chose violence, they would learn why humanity had kept these ships hidden for so long. As the Ghost Fleet moved out, Gray looked at the holographic display showing the known galaxy. For centuries, humanity had played the part of the struggling newcomer, the primitive species barely worthy of notice. That deception had ended. Now the galaxy would learn why humans had always smiled at their insults, why they had accepted the unfair treaties with such apparent meekness. They hadn't been weak. They had been preparing. Captain Mary Stone watched from the bridge of the HFS Judgment as the pirate fleet approached. For years, these raiders had attacked human colonies with the Council's tacit approval. Today, that would end. "All hands to battle stations," she ordered calmly. Activate dark tech systems. The ship hummed as technologies previously unknown to the galaxy came online. Systems that bent light, warped space, and defied conventional physics, all developed in secret while humanity played the role of technological inferiors. Pirates are entering weapons range, her tactical officer reported. They're using Council-provided shields. Their comms are active. Let's hear them, Stone commanded. A rough voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, power down and prepare to be boarded. Resist, and we'll destroy you like all the others. Stone smiled. The pirates had no idea they were about to become an object lesson for the entire galaxy. All ships, execute pattern thunder. The Judgment and its escorts vanished from normal space. The pirate fleet's sensors went wild, trying to locate the human ships that had seemingly ceased to exist. They didn't understand that humanity had mastered dimensional shifting years ago. Transfer complete, her science officer confirmed. We're operating in dark space. Pirates are blind to our position. Target their engines and weapons. Non-lethal strikes only. We're making a point, not starting a massacre. The human ships reappeared, but not where they had vanished. They were now behind and above the pirate fleet, in perfect firing position. Fire. Beams of concentrated darkness, another human innovation, lanced out from the Judgment. Where they touched the pirate ships, systems simply stopped working. Engines died. Weapons powered down. Even their artificial gravity failed. The entire engagement lasted less than 3 minutes. Status report, Stone ordered. All pirate vessels disabled. No casualties. Their crews are intact but stranded. Council emergency beacons are active. Stone nodded. Send the message. Throughout Council space, on every communication channel, displays lit up with the same transmission. For years, you allowed these pirates to prey on our people. You claimed you couldn't stop them. We just did, in 3 minutes. Consider what that means about everything else we've claimed we couldn't do. The message was accompanied by full sensor data of the battle. Let the Council scientists puzzle over how human ships had simply vanished from normal space. Let them wonder what other technologies humanity had hidden. Captain, her communication officer called out, we're receiving responses from multiple Council worlds. They're demanding explanations. No response necessary, Stone replied. Let them think about it. Helm, set course for the next target. Over the next 24 hours, human ships systematically disabled every pirate fleet that had operated with Council blessing. Each engagement was broadcast across Council space. Each victory was achieved without a single casualty. From her command chair, Stone watched as the galaxy's power structure began to crumble. The Council had built its authority on military superiority, on the assumption that they controlled the most advanced technology in known space. That lie was now exposed. Captain, her second-in-command said quietly, the Council is threatening military action if we don't stand down. Stone looked at the message and shook her head. They still don't understand. Send them the final transmission. Across the galaxy, Council leaders received a simple message. Your threats require capability. Look around. Count your disabled pirate fleets. Ask yourself, if this is what we do as a warning, what happens when we actually decide to fight? The Judgment turned toward home, leaving behind a graveyard of disabled ships and shattered assumptions. The Council's threats continued, but they rang hollow now. They had just witnessed what humanity could do without even trying to cause harm. Set course for Earth, Stone ordered. Our point has been made. As her ship entered dark space, she allowed herself a small smile. The galaxy had needed a demonstration. Now they had one. The question was, would they be wise enough to understand what it meant? The warning shot had been fired. The galaxy's response would determine what happened next. Director Robert Wells sat in his office at the heart of Earth's financial command, watching numbers scroll across multiple screens. Each display showed the collapse of another alien economy. He hadn't fired a single shot, hadn't launched a single attack. He had simply pressed a button. "Sir," his assistant called from the doorway, "the Trade Guild of the Seven Systems has just declared bankruptcy." Wells nodded. "Right on schedule. How long until the effects reach the core worlds?" "Less than 6 hours." They never realized how dependent they'd become on human financial systems. For 2 centuries, humanity had carefully woven itself into the galaxy's economy. While playing the role of struggling newcomers, they had quietly bought controlling interests in key industries, established vital trade routes, and made themselves essential to countless alien businesses. Now they were pulling it all out at once. Update from the mining sectors, another analyst reported. The automated facilities are shutting down as planned. 3 major council species are already reporting critical resource shortages. Wells turned to the main display, where a map showed the cascade of economic failures spreading across council space. Red lights blinked into existence as businesses failed, trade routes collapsed, and entire financial systems went dark. "They thought we were just cheap labor," he mused. They never bothered to check who actually owned the companies they relied on. Human corporations had operated under countless alien names, shell companies within shell companies, all leading back to Earth. The Council's mighty trade guilds had never noticed that their most profitable ventures were actually human-controlled. "Sir, the Council is attempting to freeze human assets." Wells actually laughed at that. "Let them try. All human assets were moved to secure locations months ago. What they're trying to freeze are empty accounts." On his screens, more systems turned red. The carefully constructed house of cards was falling exactly as planned. Without human workers, human resources, and human financial backing, the galaxy's economy was discovering just how hollow it really was. "Director," his senior analyst called out, "the merchant princes are requesting emergency negotiations. They're offering to break with the Council if we'll restore their trading rights." No response. Wells ordered, "Let them sweat. Phase 2 begins in 30 minutes. Phase 2 was elegant in its simplicity. Every human-owned business, operating under alien names, would simultaneously call in all their debts. Legal, binding debts that the Council's own laws said had to be paid immediately upon request. "Begin Phase 2, he commanded at the appointed time. Across the galaxy, countless businesses received payment demands. Debts they'd thought were safely long-term suddenly became due. As they scrambled to comply with their own laws, entire financial empires crumbled. "Sir," his assistant reported with a hint of awe, "the central banking clan just collapsed. Their entire reserve was tied up in loans from our shell companies." Wells watched the destruction spread. The Council had spent centuries building a financial system that favored them, that kept other species dependent and weak. They'd never noticed that humans had been quietly taking control of it from within. "Message from the Council's Economic Ministry," an analyst called out. "They're begging us to stop. They're offering full economic autonomy for human space." "Too late," Wells replied. "Send them the standard response." Throughout Council space, desperate financial leaders received the same message. "You had centuries to treat us fairly. You chose exploitation. Now learn what real economic warfare feels like." From his office, Wells watched the final phase begin. Human corporations revealed their true ownership, showing the galaxy that its economy had been in human hands all along. The mighty trade guilds discovered they were actually subsidiaries of Earth-based companies. The powerful banking clans learned they had been borrowing their own money from human lenders. "Sir," his assistant said quietly, "estimates suggest 60% of Council space will be in economic collapse by tomorrow." Wells nodded. They hadn't wanted this. They had tried to play fair, to build an economy that benefited everyone. The Council had forced their hand. "Send the final message," he ordered. Across the galaxy, screens lit up one last time. "This is what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. Remember this lesson." Commander Elizabeth Reed stood at the center of Earth's Defense Command, her hand hovering over a glowing panel. For 2 centuries, Humanity had hidden its greatest achievement. Today, the mask would finally drop. All stations report ready, Commander, her chief engineer announced. The Sol shield is powered at 100%. Begin the revelation sequence, Reed ordered. Across the solar system, thousands of hidden satellites activated simultaneously. Each one had been disguised as debris, as abandoned stations, or simply cloaked from detection. Now they awakened, forming a web of energy that encompassed the entire system. Multiple Council warfleets detected approaching Sol, her tactical officer reported. They're attempting to establish siege positions. Reed smiled. Let them come closer. They need to see this. The Council fleets approached with confidence, believing they had Earth surrounded. Their sensors showed the same weak planetary defenses that humans had maintained for centuries, outdated shield generators and simple weapon platforms. Council ships in optimal observation range. Tactical confirmed. Drop the camouflage, Reed commanded. Show them what they're really facing. The change was instant and dramatic. The seemingly weak defense platforms transformed, revealing their true nature. What had appeared to be simple satellites became massive weapon arrays. Defunct stations turned into fortress-class defense platforms. Council ships are reacting, her officer reported. They're backing away. On her main screen, Reed watched as the alien fleets scrambled to retreat. Their sensors were finally showing them the truth. Earth had never been defenseless. The Sol system was a fortress. Activate the shield, she ordered. Energy coursed between the satellite network, forming layers of defensive barriers unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The shield wasn't just a barrier, it was a work of art, the product of 2 centuries of hidden research. Shield strength at maximum. All layers active. To demonstrate its power, Reed authorized a simple test. Fire a single warning shot at full strength. One of the Council's largest warships fired its main weapon, a planet killer beam that could shatter moons. It hit the shield and simply vanished. The energy was absorbed, redistributed, and then used to strengthen the barrier even further. Send the demonstration data, Reed commanded. Throughout Council space, military commanders received detailed scans of what had just happened. Let them see how their strongest weapons were useless. Let them understand what they were truly facing. Commander, communications called out. We're receiving thousands of messages from Council worlds. They're asking how long we've had this technology. Send them the truth, Reed replied. Show them the dates. The data packets went out, revealing that the shield had been operational for over a century. Every time the Council had threatened Earth, every time they had believed they held military superiority, they had been living in a fantasy. Council ships are retreating at maximum speed, Tactical reported. Their formation has broken completely. Reed nodded. The demonstration had worked perfectly. Now for the final reveal. Activate the secondary systems, she ordered. Around every human colony world, similar shields snapped into existence. Dozens of systems, all protected by the same impenetrable technology. The Council had never known they existed, had never detected their construction. Send the final message, Reed commanded. Throughout the galaxy, military commanders received Earth's transmission. You thought we needed your protection. You thought we were defenseless. Now, you know the truth. Every human world is a fortress. Every human system is impregnable. Remember this before you consider threatening us again. From her command center, Reed watched as the Council fleets fled. They had come expecting to find a vulnerable Earth, ready to be brought back under control. Instead, they had discovered that humanity had never been vulnerable at all. Orders, Commander, her second asked. Now we wait, Reed replied. They need time to understand what this means, to realize that every threat they ever made, every military advantage they thought they had, was built on a lie. The shield hummed quietly, protecting humanity just as it had for centuries. But now the galaxy knew about it. Now they understood. The mask had fallen. The fortress had revealed itself, and the galaxy trembled. General William Porter walked into the emergency session of the Galactic Council, but not as a supplicant. This time, he came to dictate terms. Behind him, a hologram displayed the combined might of humanity's fleet, not the weak ships they'd shown before, but their true strength. "Your seats," Porter said, gesturing to the council members who had half risen in protest. "This won't take long." The aliens settled back, their various expressions showing fear, anger, and in some cases, dawning respect. The blue speaker, once so confident, now looked pale and drawn. "Humanity's terms are simple," Porter began. "Non-negotiable. We speak, you listen." He activated a data projection, showing the new borders of human space. It was far larger than what the Council had known about, including dozens of hidden colonies and industrial centers. "First, these are our territories, all of them. Any incursion will be considered an act of war." The Council members stirred uneasily. Some of those systems had been claimed by other species, claims that had apparently been meaningless, as humans had already built thriving colonies there in secret. "Second, the trade guilds will be disbanded. A new economic system will be established, with fair representation for all species." The guild representatives started to protest, but fell silent when Porter's cold gaze fell on them. They had seen what happened to their economies when humans withdrew. They couldn't risk worse. "Third, technology sharing will be equal and open, but only for peaceful applications. Military tech remains sovereign to each species." This brought murmurs of relief from some council members. They had feared humans would demand their military secrets. Instead, Porter was offering something more valuable: access to human civilian technology that was centuries ahead of their own. "Fourth, the Council's military arm is dissolved. Each species will maintain its own defense forces. Any aggression between species will face combined sanctions from all others." The blue speaker found its voice. "You can't simply remake the galaxy's power structure." "We already have," Porter cut in. "Look around you. Your military is in shambles. Your economy is collapsed. Your power was built on the assumption of human weakness, an assumption we allowed you to hold until you proved yourselves unworthy of trust." He gestured, and new data filled the screens, showing human achievements that had been hidden for centuries. Technological breakthroughs that made council science look primitive. Industrial capacity that dwarfed entire alien sectors. Fifth and final, the old council is dissolved. A new galactic assembly will be formed, with equal representation for all spacefaring species. No exceptions, no special privileges. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Centuries of political structure swept away in minutes. "You have 1 hour to accept these terms," Porter stated. "After that, humanity will simply implement them anyway. The only choice you have is whether you want to be part of the new system or try to survive outside it." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. The data we're sending now shows exactly what humanity can do if provoked. I suggest you study it carefully before making your decision." The council members watched in stunned silence as their screens filled with military data. The true capabilities of human fleets, the power of their weapons, the strength of their defenses. 1 hour, Porter repeated, walking out. In the chamber, the alien representatives looked at each other with new understanding. They had thought humans were primitive upstarts who needed to be controlled. Instead, they had been dealing with a species that had simply been waiting to see if they could be trusted with power. They had failed that test. Now, as they studied the data showing humanity's true strength, they began to realize something that should have been obvious. Humans hadn't unveiled all this power to start a war. They had done it to prevent one. The choice was simple: accept a galaxy where all species were truly equal, or face a future where humanity no longer bothered with diplomacy at all. One by one, the council members began drafting their acceptance of the new terms. 1 year after humanity revealed its true power, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The new Turin Accords were in full effect, and Ambassador James Walker stood before the inaugural session of the Galactic Assembly, a very different body from the council it replaced. The first year of the new order has ended, he announced to representatives from every spacefaring species. Let's review what we've accomplished. The main display activated, showing the transformed galaxy. Trade routes flowed freely between all worlds. Former council races worked alongside human scientists, learning technologies that had been hidden for centuries. Peace prevailed, enforced not by threat, but by mutual benefit. Humanity never wanted dominance. Walker continued. We wanted equality. Now we have it. Behind him, holographic displays showed the newest revelation. Hundreds of thriving human colonies that had been hidden from galactic knowledge. Worlds that had been developing in secret, adding to humanity's strength while the Council thought they were containing Earth's expansion. These colonies are now open for trade and cultural exchange, Walker announced. Real exchange, not the exploitation of the past. The alien representatives watched in amazement as the true scope of human achievement became clear. What they had thought was a struggling species of barely a dozen worlds was actually a vast network of hundreds of colonies, all advanced far beyond Council standards. But this is not just about human achievements, Walker said. Look at what your worlds have accomplished in just 1 year of true freedom. The displays shifted, showing former Council worlds flourishing under the new system. Without the artificial restrictions of the old order, species that had been kept dependent were now growing, developing, reaching their true potential. The Turin Accords have one simple principle, Walker explained. Every species has the right to develop, to grow, to achieve their full potential. No more artificial restrictions, no more enforced hierarchies. In the chamber, representatives who had once been bitter enemies now sat together, working on joint projects. The old Council's policy of keeping species divided and competitive had been replaced by cooperation and mutual support. Some asked why we hid our true strength for so long. Walker continued. The answer is simple. We were waiting, watching, hoping that the Council would prove worthy of its power. The displays showed historical footage, centuries of Council oppression, of artificial restrictions, of enforced poverty on lesser species. Then it shifted to show the present. Those same species now rising, achieving, growing strong. When they proved unworthy, we didn't just tear down their system. We replaced it with something better. The assembly chamber itself was a symbol of the change. Unlike the old Council chamber, with its hierarchical seating and dominant position for powerful species, this room was circular. Every representative sat at the same level. Every voice carried the same weight. Humanity's strength remains, Walker acknowledged. Our fleets still patrol. Our shields still protect our worlds. But now they protect a galaxy worth defending. The final displays showed the new reality. A galaxy where trade flowed freely, where science advanced without artificial limits, where peace was maintained by cooperation rather than force. The galaxy trembled when humanity left the Council table. Walker concluded. But look at what rose from those fears. A new order, a better way, a future where all species can reach for the stars together. As he finished speaking, the assembly burst into applause. Not the forced approval of the old Council, but genuine appreciation from species that had finally found their place as equals in the galaxy. From his position, Walker allowed himself a small smile. It had taken centuries of patience, of hiding, of careful preparation. But finally, humanity had achieved its true goal, not dominance, but the creation of a galaxy where no species would ever again be held back by another's fear or greed. The balance of power had shifted, not to create a new tyranny, but to ensure that tyranny could never return. The galaxy had trembled when humanity showed its strength. Now it thrived because humanity had shown its wisdom.